analysis and school-wide positive behavior supports are either one and the same or similar. Um, so school-wide positive behavior support is sometimes considered to be an application of ABA, and some behavior analysts see school-wide positive behavior support as watered down ABA, and others see it as in conflict with ABA, and others see it as in one and the same. So our debate will discuss the issue by presenting whether school-wide positive behavior support is loosely connected to ABA versus school-wide positive behavior support being one and the same with ABA. So now I will pass it over to Faith, who is going to talk about school-wide positive behavior support being loosely connected to applied behavior analysis.
Hey everybody, so as Erica just said, I'm talking about loosely connected to applied behavioral analysis. So school-wide positive behavior supports is an approach to preventing undesirable problem behavior and promoting positive behavior. It emerged as an alternative to more exclusionary and punitive forms of school-wide discipline. So it's an approach that combines the evidence-based practices from positive behavior support with the practices of universal behavior prevention and instructional focus on teaching positive behaviors. So school-wide positive behavior supports is a three-tiered intervention model. It talks about the PBS triangle. So there's a universal level of intervention, a targeted level of intervention, and then the intensive level of intervention. Principles of applied behavior analysis were used for the foundation for developing PBS, which focuses on positive reinforcement to support a student's performance of socially desirable target behaviors. School-wide positive behavior supports is an approach designed to improve the adoption, accurate implementation, and sustained use of evidence-based practices related to behavior and classroom management and school-wide discipline systems. School-wide behavior positive supports have 5 core components that serve as its foundation. So there's behavioral theory and applied behavior analysis, use of positive reinforcement and functional behavior assessment. Second, there's the focus on prevention. Third, it has an instructional focus permeates the interventions and behavioral teaching practices. Fourth, it draws from evidence-based behavioral practices to increase the likelihood of interventions being effective and generalizable. And it's a systems approach in its defining feature. The key features of school-wide positive behavior supports is that the rules for student behavior are explicit, simple, and consistent. The expectations are explicitly defined in target behaviors for each environment of the school. Expectations and target behaviors are taught to students in classroom settings and other target environments of the school. It provides acknowledgement for successfully meeting behavioral expectations. Teachers respond to problem behaviors with correction and teaching. So again, it's a 3-tiered model of service delivery. There's the use of data collection to inform decisions about how to meet the needs of students along with the 3-tiered model.
All right, Faith, thanks for that. And now I'm going to pass it over to Yeji, who's going to talk about school-wide positive behavior support being one and the same with ABA.
Hi, so school-wide positive behavior support is one and the same with applied behavior analysis. Is that school-wide positive behavior support is an application of ABA. They use the concept of ABA and use it at their school. And they also use positive reinforcements rather than consequence strategies. For example, since positive behavior support is mostly focused on the entire class, they can say at the end of the day, if everybody is in their best behavior, they can get a gift out of the gift bag. Teachers also have to make sure that they use consequence strategies as the last resort if positive reinforcement does not work. And positive behavior support also sees a problem behavior and they try to replace them. Like if a student is throwing a tantrum by falling on the floor and screaming, the school will find a replacement behavior for it. School-wide positive behavior support follows the 7 dimensions of applied behavior analytic research and practice as described by Bear, Wolf, and Risley. First, applied dimension, school-wide positive behavior support is implemented at the level of the school, the entire school district, or even the entire state. Behavioral, in PBS, the measure of the effects of PBS is in the number of discipline referrals. Analytic, reduction in the number of discipline referrals at the school level have shown to be the result of PBS and not some other variable. Conceptual, school-wide positive behavior support stresses data-based assessment and decision-making, interventions that are designed for a specific school rather than an individual, and intervention components that are taken directly from research in the field of behavior analysis. Technological or school-wide positive behavior support, technological precision relates to the degree to which implementers work to ensure that PBS is implemented with fidelity. And effective school-wide positive behavior support is an application of theory and practice of CBA, all the systems level, and is being applied in a way that is stable and maintained over time. The empirical evidence for its effectiveness is growing. And the last dimension, generality, school-wide positive behavior support has been implemented in a number of schools, including elementary, middle schools, and high schools, magnet schools, and non-public schools, schools in rural and urban settings. School-wide positive behavior support is lasting in these schools over many years as an effective intervention.
All right, great. Thanks, EAG. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Faith, who's going to talk about the evidence for school-wide positive behavior supports and applied behavior analysis being loosely connected.
So Noster, Anderson, Carr, Dunlap, and Horner stated that PBS is an approach to intervention derived from social, behavioral, and biomedical science that is applied at the individual or systems level to achieve reduction in problem behavior and improve quality of life. PBS integrates the following critical features: its comprehensive lifestyle change, a lifespan perspective, its ecological validity, stakeholder perspective, social validity, systems change, multi-component intervention guided by functional assessment, emphasis on prevention, environmental redesign, and instruction. There's a flexibility in scientific practices and multiple theoretical perspectives. So PBS emerged from three major sources, one of them being ABA, the second being the normalization inclusion movement, and then person-centered values. So ABA had two major contributions to PBS. It's provided one element of a conceptual framework relevant to behavior change, and it provided several assessments and intervention strategies. PBS owes ABA for the concept of the three-tier contingency, stimulus response, reinforcing consequences, of setting events and establishing operations, and of stimulus control, generalization, and maintenance. At the intensive level of intervention, school-wide positive behavior supports using functional analysis and assessment strategy that originated in ABA. It is an experimental method for determining the purpose of a variety of socially significant behaviors, thus facilitating intervention planning designed to change behavior in a desirable direction. School-wide positive behavior supports emphasizes ongoing direct measurement of behavior. This is one of the enduring contributions of ABA. ABA helped develop educational methods such as shaping, fading, chaining, prompting, and reinforcement contingencies, as well as a wide variety of procedures for reducing problem behaviors that are used in school-wide positive behavior supports.
All right, great. Thanks, Faith. All right, next going to pass it back to EAG, who's going to talk about the evidence for school-wide positive behavior support and ABA being one in the same.
Mm-hmm. So the evidence for school-wide positive behavior support and ABA being one and the same is that positive behavior support cannot survive without the principle of applied behavior analysis. Applied research determines whether interventions are changing human behavior. So after implementing an intervention, ABA and PBS need to see if the problem behavior is decreasing or increasing to determine if the interventions are effective. Applied behavior analysis is an evidence-based principle that helps improve specific behaviors, and so does positive behavior support. Applied behavior analysis has 7 dimensions: applied, behavioral, analytic, conceptual, technological, effective, and generality by Baer, Wolf, and Risley. And positive behavior support also has the same 7 dimensions as applied behavior analysis, like I have mentioned before. So to determine if applied behavior analysis and positive behavior supports are using the same dimensions, they need to ask, is the behavior interfering with social interactions or the child's life? Is the behavior a problem? This is the applied dimension. Is the behavior measurable and observable? The behavior dimension. Does the behavior have a trigger or an antecedent? The analytic. Is the intervention methods working on the behavior, which is the conceptual dimension? Is the intervention written in simple terms that everyone can read and implement to the child? It's important because the whole team needs to be on the same page, and you have to use terms that people who do not have experience with ABA or PBS can both implement, which is a technological aspect of the dimension. Is the intervention producing strong effects, which is effective? And the last one is the intervention generalized in an environment or when the treatment has ended, which is generality. Applied behavior analysis and positive behavior support replace problem behavior to a more acceptable behavior. For example, helping a student stay seated rather than walking around the classroom. So for this example, we have to see if it applies to the seventh dimension that I have mentioned. So is the behavior interfering with social interaction or the child's life? Yes, because if that student is walking around, they can interfere with the classwork. And the teacher can give them consequence strategies like you'll lose recess or you might get suspended. So applied behavior analysis and positive behavior support use mostly positive reinforcement, such as schedules, reinforcement and token economy. So for token, teachers can say after getting 3 tokens, you can get a prize or end class early or longer recess. And for schedule reinforcements, ABA and PBS might both use fixed ratios of 3 or VR3. And PBS and ABA both use functional behavior assessment to determine the functions of behavior, whether it being attention, escape, tangible, or sensory. So if we refer back to the stay seated example, functional behavior analysis can determine why a student is behaving this way by conducting an FBA, whether it being attention or escape. PBS is a theory and practice of applied behavior analysis to system level analysis and change. PBS means all of Bear, Wolf, and Risley dimension to increase application of behavior analysis. Without ABA, PBS would not exist.
All right, great. Thanks, EAG. Next, I'm going to pass it over to Jasmine, who's going to argue against school-wide positive behavior support and ABA being one and the same. All right, Jasmine, it's all you.
All right. Hello, I'm Jasmine Tate, and I'm going to argue about how the two terms are loosely connected. In a way, they share the same characteristics, such as increasing positive behavior while decreasing the problem or maladaptive behavior. They both improve the lifestyles and make a socially significant change. Here lies the problem in which they are loosely connected. School-wide positive behavior wants to change their approach to the problem behavior. Wants ABA to change their approach to the problem behavior. And school-wide positive behavior wants to improve the lifestyle of individuals by instilling values. To generalize. However, in ABA, they focus on reducing the maladaptive behavior by replacing it with one that's socially acceptable. And the goal is to generalize once it's targeted. In an article called Schoolwide PBIS, an example of applied behavior analysis implement at a scale of social importance, written by Hunter and Sugel. It addresses school-wide positive behavior, addresses their problems behavior in 3 tiers. And the 3 tiers are summarized in this point of the argument. Tier 1 is blocking all initial contact that brings on a behavior. This issue arises because without an antecedent, there is no behavior and the consequence does not follow. So we need an antecedent to find out our functional behavior, whether it's tangible, attention, escape, or sensory, to implement a target or replace that target behavior. The second tier goes on to explain providing support to those in need. And in ABA, it goes for the same in ABA. There's high-level behavior kinds and there's low-level behavior kinds. Your high-level behavior kind may have aggression and self-injury behaviors, and your low-level kind may have some scripting and repetitive behaviors such as hand flapping, and we're both targets in those both those behaviors and replacing those behaviors. The third behavior talks about providing a plan or implementing a plan or supporting the plan. And this goes back to what I was saying with collecting the ABC data, antecedent behavior, and consequence data. Without an antecedent or finding out what triggers that behavior, it will be hard to provide a plan to implement for those behaviors. And this concludes how the terms are loosely connected.
All right, great. Thanks, Jasmine. I'm now going to pass it over to Julie, who's going to argue against them being one and the same. Julie, can you unmute your mic?
Can you hear me? Okay, now I can't hear any of you though. Okay, I'll start over. This is Julianne Patterson, and I am speaking in an argument against school-wide positive behavioral support and ABA being loosely connected. ABA is a theory and practice of ABA to systems level analysis and change. That being said, PBS is a theory and a practice that is based on ABA, and if it wasn't because of ABA, there would be no PBS. I'm saying that PBS meets all of Baer's 7 dimensions of being able to. Sorry, guys, this is my issue. Nervousness. PBA meets all of Baer's dimensions to increase the application of behavioral analysis, as indicated by Anderson and Kincaid. Thus, without ABA, PBS would not exist. We would not have school-wide positive behavior support without ABA if there were, it is where the fundamental roots are based. To say that PBS is its own entity or loosely connected to ABA is a slap in the face to most behavioral psychologists and board-certified behavioral analysis.
All right, great. Thanks, Julie. Now I'm going to pass it back over to Jasmine, who's going to give a counter argument and concluding statements for school-wide positive behavior support and ABA being loosely connected. It's all on you, Jasmine.
As I was saying before, with the 3 tiers being with school-wide positive behavior, 3 tiers are closely resembles what ABA is about. However, they want to instill those values learned within those 3 tiers to generalize what is used in school-wide positive behavior. However, ABA wants to reduce those maladaptive behaviors and replace it with one that's socially acceptable. So they want them to generalize what is learned, the targets that are learned, the replacements that are learned, to generalize it into social settings. And this concludes that.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Now I'm going to pass it back over to Julie, who's going to give counter arguments and closing statements for positive behavior support and ABA being one in the same.
Okay, here is the counter-argument and conclusion statements I have. That it is understandable that some may see school-wide positive behavioral support and ABA being loosely connected. Seeing as a setting for SWPBS is used, it is different. However, and is completely irrelevant whether it is being used in school, or if it's being used in a center, or if it's being used in a private home, an in-home setting. It's irregardless of whether or not we are in school or not in school, or if we're in center, because the same system of dimensions of the 7 dimensions is still applied to PBS as to ABA, which is where PBS came from. So to say that they are loosely connected, it just doesn't seem quite right, because of the fact that if we didn't have ABA, there would be no PBS. So it's fundamentally part of ABA. So they are definitely connected, because of the fact that you would not be able to say, hey, this is PBS, and this is where we get all of our, antecedent behaviors, our ABC, our functional behavioral plans, because those are all based on ABA and what a BCBA would do to create a behavioral plan for ABA. So to say that they are not connected, it's just not accurate. Thank you.
All right, Julie, thanks. And that about wraps it up for our debate on school-wide positive behavior support and ABA either being one and the same or loosely connected. We look forward to hearing all of your opinions, and any questions you may have, we'll be happy to answer. And thanks for listening. Have a great time.